then they're like, wait, why don't you get it published? I'm like, no, I don't want to publish it here. I was like, okay, I'll publish it. Then somebody said, why don't you make Runaways into a movie? And I thought, no, I can't do that. But then I said, well, I don't have the money. Then somebody said, why not just do a trailer? And I thought, I don't know how to do that. Well, I made the trailer. So basically people were always like planning an idea for the next stage. And I would always be in fear of it, but I went ahead and just like took the risk. And so when I did the movie trailer and I got the award, so that was like a big shock because I was like, wow, like they really liked it, you know?
Hey, this is Coco T, and we are here with TAP Entrepreneurs. You know, TAP Entrepreneurs is a part of the Abolitionist Pledge. The Abolitionist Pledge is all about uniting people with the agenda to abolish racism. And we have a way of doing that. And part of it is sharing our amazing stories with you guys. We have a phenomenal story today. And we are here with my co-host, Dr. Sir. How are you?
Coco T, what's going on, man? I'm excited about the conversation that we are about to engage in. I mean, we've been talking about entrepreneurship and things like that, but we're really getting ready to dig deep into the literary part because as African Americans in our culture, we have a rich heritage of writers and individuals who have changed the course of the United States and the world through their writing. So I'm excited about our guest today. I'm excited about everything that TAP Entrepreneur is doing and also just being here with you, Coco T. So you ready for this?
I am ready. And our guest today, which is author Jamila D. Smith, she is amazing. She has written three books. And you can find her books on tapentrepreneurs.com. I just want to remind you, you also can highlight your amazingness on tapentrepreneurs.com. Welcome to the show, Jamila.
Thank you.
What's going on?
Glad to be here.
We're so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about how you got started as an author.
Well, I've been writing since childhood. So it goes back to being in fourth grade. My fourth grade teacher used to have us do like journal time. And so that would give us like, I think it probably was more of like relaxation time for her, more so than for us, because, you know, the classroom was quiet and it felt like a long time. I swear it was from like 9 to 9:50. And everybody would just write daily entries, you know, like, you know, going to the mall or to the supermarket with their sister or get into a fight with their best friend or something. Well, I would write like imaginary stories, you know, like I think I had one story similar to like Alice in Wonderland with my own twist. And so my teacher, she would like write notes and replies to our daily entries, you know, like, oh, great job, or I hate bad dreams too, or, you know, something like that. And so I'm like, oh, she really read it. So I was kind of like encouraged to like, I'm going to do another one. And so from then on, like English class or writing class was always my favorite. And I think she put a bug in my ear to become a writer. I used to love journal time.
Man, that's awesome, you know, and I think that the power of teachers, that's why I'm in higher education now, because the power to influence mind and to really celebrate and push those who have great talent to the next level is one of the key jobs in this country. So we have to do that. You say when I was a child, but you look kind of young now,
But thank you.
you know, so talk a little bit about you and just you actually grew up in Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
All right. So what was that experience like growing up there? Share with everyone a little bit more about yourself.
So during that time in the New England area, and especially like in the communities where I was raised and where I was attending school, it wasn't as diverse. I'm sure maybe it is now, but it's predominantly white or majority Portuguese. So very few Blacks. I think I probably had like one friend and I was able to like single her out. And then over the years, like probably by the time I was into like, they called it junior high, not middle school. So when I got to junior high, it was starting to become more diverse. More minorities were coming in. And then I had one friend, today she probably would be known as ESL because she was from Puerto Rico and spoke a second language, but they lumped her in my class. And so we were in the same special ed class together. I used to have a learning disability, so I had to get extended time on exams and assignments and so forth. So that's how she and I became friends. So yeah, but my community wasn't very diverse. And so I think probably that's what made me stand out even more. And so when I got into like the writing, teachers would share like, oh, did you see what you wrote? Look, check this out, and so yeah, literary arts, like it followed me from elementary to junior high up to high school when we moved to Indiana. And it's funny because my teacher that I had in fourth grade, I reached out to her about 10 years ago and she remembered me. She knew exactly who I was. I didn't have to send her a picture. It was just more of like a little follow-up, like kudos, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be right today, sort of type of thing. So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, she remembers me. Wow. And it was odd. The 80s.
That's always amazing when we can, when you know that you've had that impact, and you've had
Yes.
people that impacted you. I saw also that social work is a part of your studies as well.
Yes.
And how did that impact your writing?
I did writing on the side. So, when it came to like academics and pursuing like professions, like my writing would be like my side gig, something to do. So I would, go to high school, go to class, come home, work my little after school job and do writing at home or stay up to the wee hours of the night sometimes.
Yeah.
And then even in undergrad and college, in graduate, I would always, do the research papers, get that done. And then if I had like a couple hours, right before bedtime, then I would just like write in a notebook, put it aside and just go to sleep and do it again the next day until I had a full novel and a spiral notebook, basically.
You know, I, I love this. I love this conversation because so often we have these ideas, and in our community, we're very good with the spoken word, but we're not that good with actually writing it down. Right. And so many times we have stories, we have dialogues, things like that. And we don't journal it and create that, allow these experiences to create what we see now, what you're doing. So I love this. And I also love that you had a love for writing, for literature, right? And sometimes that can be a challenge with getting our kids just to read the textbook. So
Yes, right.
this is going to be great. I want to shift a little bit, and you have 3 books out, if I'm correct, right? Right.
Yes.
So which one is the very first one, and talk a little bit about that first experience with that book.
Sure. I wrote Sprouting Seeds, and that was basically, it's kind of like The Color Purple, Eve's Bayou type of genre, basically. And
Okay.
so it's a great grandmother telling her life history to her great granddaughter. And what inspired me to write this book was years ago, I used to serve in AmeriCorps Vista. It's like a US version of Peace Corps. So instead of going overseas to do community work, you can stay domestic. And so I was at an after school training program. And so the facilitator was trying to pretty much like, giving us ideas how to get students engaged in after school activities. So she picked up a book and it was called Chicken Sunday. And it was about a girl like narrating how she would spend summers with grandma in the country. And so we're supposed to be like tapping into her strategies. Okay, get students quiet, get them engaged, get their attention, have them sit in a circle and so forth. Well, I was intrigued in the stories. I was kind of like, wow, Chicken Sunday, wow. And so when the facilitator was asking questions like, any questions on what to do, when you get in your sessions with the students? And I was like, well, tell me more about that author. I was like way off the topic. And so I went home and I was just started writing Sprouting Seeds. And I actually wrote my stories out of sequence because Sprouting Seeds wasn't written first, but it was actually copyrighted and published and so forth before the others. So Chicken Sunday, yeah, that kind of inspired me to write Sprouting Seeds, but I added my own flair, exaggerated my own character. So I didn't copycat her, but it gave me an idea.
What in your writing, do you normally also use, and I know it's mostly fiction writing, but do you use like your real world experiences, your real life experiences also in your writing?
I may have like, maybe if I came across somebody I knew, like maybe a family member or someone I used to work with or someone growing up, I might reflect on a conversation I had or their personality and just kind of add them in. But just kind of, yeah, just fictionalize it basically. So if I met a girl named Susie and I'm like, oh yeah, Susie used to do this and do that. Well, she might be Sarah in my book. I have like Susie's characteristics. But I did tend to do that.
So it won't be like The Best Man where you hanging somebody out the window top. Oh, that's me and your but
Exactly. They'll never know.
you know, I, the book Runaway, right? And when we think about that, the theme behind that, talk to us a little bit. Where'd that inspiration come from?
So Runaways was the story. Like I said, I wrote my stories out of sequence. So that was the story I wrote first. And that was pretty much like straight out of high school when I wrote it. So I was an undergrad and I used to be an RA. So I had desk duties. So I had nothing but downtime. So when homework was done, and again, I'm like multitasking with side hustles. So I used to type research papers for money. So when like side gigs were done, okay, my playtime, let's write. So I would just write my notebook. And so I remember writing like the first 4 chapters when I was like crafting my main characters. And then I just put it aside. But I remember like thinking of movies I might have seen and remembering how the stories ended. And I was like, well, I want my ending to be different. I want to write a story on movies I wish I could have seen, but still haven't came across yet. And so that's when I went to Runaways. And then probably like many years later, probably after Sprouting Seeds was done, I returned to Runaways and that's when I was able to add more and finish it. But by then, now it's years later. So I have to like tweak, like a certain lingo didn't exist, like pagers, we don't even use pagers because I wrote the story like in 01. 2001. So here it is like maybe 2005 or 06. So yeah, we didn't use pagers. So I had to refer to cell phones and, send me a text. Well, we don't say that anymore. Text me, so yeah. So I had to do a lot of revisions on it, but Runaways inspired me by watching a lot of movies and just like thinking about stories I would like to come across, but never actually had the opportunity to pick up or to see on screen. So I just made my own, if that makes sense.
As I read Runaways, it starts off and it's a very emotional book, and it pulls you to an emotional place. What is some of the feedback? And I know you were mentioned that you got an award for Runaways.
Yes.
Briefly tell us a little bit more about that and other.
Sure. I created a movie trailer, and so I won the honorary award at like the Indie Gathering. This was probably back in 2016, so it's been some time. But they liked my trailer, and it's interesting when I made the trailer for Runaways, because every time I had a craft for my books, again, this is just like a hobby, people do like crossword puzzles or stitch work or painting. I would just like write stories, share them with a few family members, friends, and then I would just shelve them. I was cool with that. Like, oh, I wrote a story, here's my notebook, and that's it. And then so people were saying like, well, why don't you get it copyrighted? And so every stage was like a big fear for me. So I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. Well, it's because I wasn't as educated as how the process was. So I was in fear. So I never did it. And then finally I was like, okay, I'll get it copyrighted. Then they're like, wait, why don't you get it published? I'm like, no, I don't want to publish it. I was like, okay, I'll publish it. Then somebody said, why don't you make Runaways into a movie? Then I thought, no, I can't do that. But then I said, well, I don't have the money. Then somebody said, why not just do a trailer? And I thought, I don't know how to do that. Well, I made the trailer. So basically people were always like planning an idea for the next stage. And I would always be in fear of it, but I went ahead and just like took the risk. And so when I did the movie trailer and I got the award, so that was like a big shock because I was like, wow, like they really liked it, didn't expect it. So it was a good surprise.
You know, top entrepreneurs, one of the things we do is we support businesses and all the various businesses, no matter what it is. And sometimes we're limited in our views of what type of businesses are out there in our culture. And so I want you to talk a little bit more about the business side of writing, as being an author, about publishing, because there could be someone listening that has this desire. They're writing just as you are, or this young person that is sitting there on a college campus at an RA desk, and they're like, man, I want to do this. And you're inspiring them, but I just don't know how. So give us a little bit more information about the business side of this.
One thing is changing. You know, marketing is always ongoing, so it's never like a one recipe strategy. So what I mean by that is, you know, like I wouldn't say, well, I'm just gonna reach out to only this population. That's it. No, you got to think beyond. It's digital, and then not everybody's digital, so you got to reach some people who are still in paperback or the old school or CD-ROMs, and who are like caught up to speed with MP3. So as far as business, you got to reach as many as you can and reach your audience on all levels. I remember an English professor telling me one time, he said, when you write a paper, you have two types of audiences. You have one that's extremely smart and one that's extremely stupid. And I was kind of like, why would he say that? But so I told my high school students the same thing. So it comes to that when you're in literary arts with business, if you're trying to reach your audience, you got to reach them from all levels, reach them from where they are, if I may say. So marketing is ongoing. It changes, you know, what works today may be different tomorrow, next year. And just, I would just say, stay up to speed and keep up with the trends. That's how business will work. At least that's what I've been doing. I've been learning as I go.
On that point of keeping up with the trends in marketing, I see that your book is now available on Audible, which
Yes.
is amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
How was that process for you?
That was fun. And again, that was a new step for me because I'm trudging along as I go. I don't have like a mentor over me, like, you know, spearheading, you need to do this, do that. So, but I did go to a seminar years ago, and they were telling us, it's kind of like, you know, professional development. So they were giving us ideas on how to, you know, reach your audience. So they mentioned audio at the time. And I was like, well, you know, I'll get to it when I can. And so I used one of those notes I edged in my notebook, just put it aside and went on about my business. But then I came back to it last year, especially during COVID. And so then I was like, well, this is the time, let's get into it. So I was able to like, pick out my voice actors. I was able to have them audition. That was interesting. And you talk about talent there, that's a big pull there. And so I was pretty much in charge. I was in the driver's seat because, you know, you're giving them instructions and you're telling them how you want it to be formatted. And so their job is to go along with how you outline it. And she did it to the T. I got to give it to her. My voice actor was on point. And we got to FaceTime afterwards. And so the way I envisioned her, I just knew she was gonna be like, you know, closer to my age, and we had some things in common. She was much younger than me. She lived in a different region. And I was like, this is really amazing. So, you know, so you can't stereotype, judge a book by its cover, by the voice, but it was a fun experience. And so now that I kind of have an idea of how it works, I'm ready to do my next book for audio when that time comes, which will be soon.
Because you have both books, you have the Sprouting Seeds as well as the Runaways out there on Audible. So those of you listening in, make sure you go ahead and buy that book. I'm a big Audible fan, so I've already bought it. So good deal.
Oh, thank you.
So you've overcome a whole lot, from learning disabilities to not understanding the industry. I mean, trials and errors, things of that nature. What's that one lesson, that takeaway lesson that you would really share to maybe to give words of wisdom to the next generation of writers, Black writers?
I would let them know that don't expect somebody to always, you know, be there right by your side and tell you which way to go, you know, which direction to go and what's going to work and what's not. If you have that person, you're very lucky, but more than likely you're not. So if you're gonna wait to find that person, you're gonna be waiting a long time. So your best bet really is to kind of like be your own teacher, be your own coach, be your own mentor, but stay up to speed, go to, different seminars where you can learn and get other ideas, network, talk to other artists as well. Because a lot of times when you go, you might feel, or at least I did, you might feel like, well, I don't really know much about this industry. These people have more experience than me, and they're not gonna be able to help me, or I'm not gonna know what to say to them. But really, they're kind of like in the same boat as you are. So like my venue was writing books, but somebody over here might be into screenwriting. He knows nothing at all about writing books, but we come together and then I can plant an idea in his head and vice versa. Whereas I don't know anything about screenwriting, but I come to him. And so, we can collaborate. So it's like everybody's got like their own lane basically that they're following, but you're all going to merge together. So it's okay to, work independently. That's expected. You might save more money that way because, and you're going to spend more money too, because if you're going to wait to have, your own professional agent at your side, which, kudos to you if you do, you're lucky. But if you don't spend time waiting for that. Just go ahead and take the bull by the horn on your own and follow your dreams and network on your own. Get things done yourself.
That's great advice. Since you did it mostly by yourself, was
Yeah.
there a particular tool or an avenue that you went down as far as getting your books out and published that you felt was really helpful for you?
I pretty much did like my own research. So, I just did like a Google search, you know, publishing agencies near me or publishing agencies in Indiana or wherever. And so I happened to find a self-publishing agency, and they were brand new at the time. And so I contacted them. This was back when I was like in the fear stage, so I'm asking questions, and I would just like talk to them and get, kind of like a Q&A. Well, what can you do? What can I do? Sort of thing. And then I left it alone, and I would just kind of like, talk to friends. Because, again, I had stories, and I would just share notebooks with friends, and they would read it, tell me their opinion. That's it. So I had one friend, she said, yeah, call the publisher. And I was like, you think I should? So basically it was kind of like, I would ask advice. You think I should do it? Okay, if you think I should, I'll do it, that sort of thing. And I remember one of my friends, she had said, the only person who's holding you back is yourself. And when she said that, I was shell-shocked. I was kind of like, wow. It was like a slap in the face. I was kind of shocked to hear that from her because she had been positive. Everything she said, oh yeah, I think you should do it. It's a good idea. Oh, this is a good story. Yes, yes. But then when she said I was holding myself back, it kind of hurt my feelings. But then I guess I needed to hear it too. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to call him right now. And so I was on it, And so, so I would basically like kind of rely on advice from others, which I guess is not the best thing because, be careful who you want to get advice from. But in this case, she was one of the best people to get advice. And that was a big help.
Man, that's awesome. And so when we're talking about your experience, because people want to hear about Tap Entrepreneur and how your experience with it has been, because they're like, man, I want to join, I want to be a member, but I don't know about this. It's brand new, What has your experience been like with Tap Entrepreneurs?
Well, I'm brand new myself, so
Okay.
I need to educate myself on the feature and its components as well.
Okay.
So can't speak much about it. I don't really know much about it. I need some more training. And,
Okay.
and I did have one-on-one training with John, but I could go for another session if you don't mind. But I would tell others it's worth attending. Please tap into it because I do like that John always puts in the time and the energy to work with you one-on-one. He gives you his attention and his time. So it's definitely worth using as one of your networks, for sure.
We know that we can find your books on tapentrepreneurs.com, but how else can we stay connected with you on your social media?
I am on Instagram and Facebook, Jamila Smith 18 for Instagram, and then also my web link. So it's jamiladsmith.weebly.com, and I can put it in the chat or I can email it to you, however you like. But and I'm also on YouTube. You know, my trailers are on YouTube. Just type in Jamila D. Smith Runaways or Jamila D. Smith Sprouting Seeds. So I have a trailer version of Runaways and the extended version as well. And then Cindy's also, that was supposed to be a trailer, but it ended up becoming, I guess, a trailer / short film. So I just call it Cindy because it's about 8 minutes. And
Okay.
that was also played at one of the seminars as well.
Wow.
It was on the video. That was fun.
So you've been writing a lot of fiction. Any idea about maybe going into nonfiction? Have you thought about that?
It's crossed my mind, but I'm not really into nonfiction because I don't like to do research. And maybe it's because, you know, I spent so much time in grad school and it's like, I want to do something fun. I want to write about something fun, not research related and spend time, you know, in the books, you know, per se that way. So
I
but
think your story will be great. I think talking about those early years in Massachusetts and then also just parts of your journey. So I'm just sowing a seed, you know, maybe it'll be a sprouting seed, right? You know.
possibly. You never know.
I'm curious too. I was a person who grew up loving books. I love to read, and I almost felt like I got lost in the books and the stories, and it took me away from the life I was living. I mean, I really
Yes.
felt like it was an escape for me, right? Did you feel connected to any particular author when you were, or influenced by any particular author?
I used to read V.C. Andrews.
Oh,
Yeah, I was probably a little not age appropriate at the time because I might have been like in 5th grade when I, you know, kids were like reading like Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume and all that. And so like I was reading like you know, V.C. Andrews or Alice Walker. I think it was like Rick Hatala. He wrote like, he was like a Stephen King type of author. So I would like read stories like that. And I do remember one time I was in class and our teacher, she gave us reading time. We were supposed to read, you know, she called it silent reading books or something. And so we were supposed to have like 10 minutes to read. And then she would call our names and it was our turn to come see her in a small group and do a lesson because she was rotating. So she was like calling everybody and I heard her call my name and she got really mad. And I was like, what's wrong? She said, oh, well, Jamila must have really been reading. I had to call her name several times. It's time to get to this lesson or something like that. So that's when I had one of my books and I was, you know, really into it. And so, yeah, it can happen. You could tune everything out. I wasn't trying to ignore intentionally. I was just in tune with the story. And so, yeah, that can happen. I did have authors that used to draw me in, you know, the V.C. Andrews for sure, and Alice Walker. Yeah, they probably weren't appropriate, but they were good stories and they're made on the movie on screen now. So
I'm sitting there with all you literary individuals. I'm like, okay, what did I read when I was growing up? I read off necessity. It might have been like a football playbook or something like that. But as I grew and became more of an academician, then it became more interesting for me, you know. So no, and I had to look up. I was like, oh, V.C. Andrews, did I read that one of her books? I think that's what I love about these interviews is because they really have an opportunity to expand our minds, I think, and introduce us to so many other aspects of this world and our culture from the lens of our guests. And so, Jamila, you've really added to value to TAP Entrepreneurs and everything we're doing in TAP TV. You know, so you know, as we get close to the end of this conversation. What's one of those final thoughts that you would like to share?
I think it's good to always be open to learn how, I guess, literary arts works and how it operates, and just be open to accept additional ideas. So what may not be working for you, you might be able to network with somebody, and then the two of you can come together and then do a project together, and then your plan may go higher than you had thought it was going to achieve. I know that had happened when I had collaborated with my screenwriter to do Runaway. And so he had additional ideas and he was educating me on like what to put in the script, versus what not, because what's in the book is always going to be different when you have it on the screen. And so I was thought like, oh, wow, well, yeah, that does make sense. So it's always good to be receptive to hear other ideas, because you can educate them and then they can educate you as well.
That's wonderful. Well, it was amazing having you on, Jamila. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you can find her books on tapentrepreneurs.com. I'm your girl, Coco T, with Dr. Sir as well. The Abolitionist Pledge, TAPTV. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.